cup of no. Thought that I'd just drop by and let you know that I'm leaving town tomorrow. I'll cause you no more sorrow. I'll just have a cup of coffee, then I'll go. I brought the money like the lawyer said to do. It won't replace all the heartaches I've caused you. It won't take the place of loving you, I know. I'll just have a cup of coffee, then I'll go.
Welcome back to the channel in Grand Columbia. Welcome to Coffee Time Live. I see things bouncing around over there, so I think you're hearing me. I'd tell you about the weather, but I don't have a clue. I mean, it's nice at the moment, but the last couple of days, it's been crazy. And Robert sent me some videos, it looks like from Florida, where they've been getting flooded. I don't know where all this rain is coming from, but the last couple of days, it'll rain, it'll stop, it'll rain some more, it'll stop, it'll rain some more. It's crazy. I've lost all semblance of time and space and reality with this rain issue. Okay, today I'm going to talk about some news items, particularly about Candio. I'm going to talk about some new stats that came out for Colombia. I'm going to talk about a little bit about the election, and then I want to talk about avocados for a minute, just because I found out something that I didn't know and I thought it was kind of fascinating. I'm sure that most of you will find it boring as hell, so I'll try to make it short. Phil, how you doing, Phil? Good morning to everybody. Juka, let me see. I got another early one this morning. I thank you very much. Glenn, greetings from West Palm Beach. How you doing, Glenn? Everybody out there that's new, feel free to chime in on the chat, particularly when we get to the Q&A. John, good morning from Cucuta. What are you doing there? Don't you know that's not the best place in the world to be? Yeah, you couldn't pay me to go there. Probably got some girlfriend from there. I don't know. It's not a great place. The ELN is kind of in control there. Yeah, friends. I get the kind of friends the only reason somebody would go there is some hot chick. I'm on to you. Okay. Some of the news. I'm not staying for that long. I wouldn't even go there. It really is an unsafe area. Good morning from Costa Rica. Good morning. All right, some news. You guys know that I'm really a fan of the mayor of Armenia, but Candio itself has been doing. There's a lot of cool things going on. There's a lot of investment. It's amazing what you can do when you've got a couple local governments that aren't corrupt. First of all, and if you don't know, the taxation system here is there is an income tax, but it's primarily the upper 5% or so. The real tax base for the country is the EVA, or value-added tax. Which the new guy, Hernandez, he's proposing something pretty cool. He wants to drop that tax, but he wants to remove tax from all basic items, particularly with food, things that you need to survive. He doesn't want that tax. And, that's personally, I always thought that's the way it should be, but he's the only one that's proposing that. But anyway, we'll get to him a little bit later. Okay, first item. In the south part of Armenia, in the rural areas, the little towns on the edge, I guess you'd call them suburbs, but they're rural. They're putting up Wi-Fi towers, so there'll be free Wi-Fi particularly for the students that are there. Tend to be lower income in those areas, and Wi-Fi is a luxury, and they want everybody to have access to it, so they're putting up towers, a whole bunch of them. So it's going to cover 7 basic areas in the south part of Armenia. So that's pretty cool. Number 2, they're delivering right now, this week, what they're calling Sceen packages. 26 schools in Armenia are receiving these technology packages that include 3D printers and laptops and robotics equipment. And, they don't want them to be behind what the rest of the world has available in their classrooms. And they put a pretty heavy investment. 26 schools, that's the majority of the schools. So that's pretty cool. Number 3, I mentioned this before, but it's actually begun. It's the new roads in the rural areas where if you drive around Colombia much, the main roads are pretty freaking awesome for the most part. And then you get to the side roads, and they're okay, they're not bad. But then you get to the back roads, the dirt road. When I grew up, we had in the U.S. dirt roads everywhere, and I used to drive on those dirt roads. Here you have dirt roads that are almost impassable, and particularly when you get a lot of rain. There's big rocks. It's kind of like, you ever see these parks where Jeeps will go and do rock climbing, and you got to have a spotter out there? They're almost like that. That's why you see a lot of Jeeps actually out in these areas. Well, they've already begun, and the first ones are near Salento. There's some hellaciously bad roads there. There's areas where people live that certain times of the year, they cannot get out to go to the store or whatever. So those are the first ones being targeted, and those roads have begun. Okay, number 4. Here in Armenia is the junior tennis tournament for South America. So that's pretty awesome. From there, they'll be going to the World Championship, but the Junior Tennis Championship for South America is being held right here. Number 5, there's a bowler here from Condillo, name doesn't matter. He's the captain of the Colombian team, and they're hosting the Ibero American Championship right this coming week, starting tomorrow here in Armenia. And countries that are being represented are Peru, Puerto Rico, Chile, Uruguay, Mexico, Dominican Republic, Guatemala, Venezuela, and Spain. So that's being held. The next step from what goes on here in Armenia will also be a world championship for bowling. So pretty cool. So people keep asking me, is there any sports going on? And there's more. There's some kind of Armenia. I don't follow soccer, football, but there's something going on. Armenia's team it's a backwater league, but I guess it's the best of the backwater. I don't know. got some new statistics out. It was kind of depressing. I talked about the poverty rate, and I did a video and I talked about it on a coffee time to kind of give perspective, because people were coming to Colombia and they're seeing, the poverty, and they were assuming everybody's poor, and which is not true, and it's still not true. It's still not the majority. However, from COVID, just recently, this is the first one since when COVID began where they've done a study on this. They do statistics generally yearly, but it's been 2 years. So this has come out. The percentage of poor in Colombia prior to COVID was 27%. And to put that in perspective, in the United States, it was 23 point something, almost 24%. So it wasn't horribly out of bounds as far as other countries go. Since COVID, it's almost 39 point something, almost 40% poverty. Now, when I lived here before, it was over 50%. And when it was over 50%, it was extremely dangerous here. There was so much stuff going on. I got shot at. There was all kinds of stuff that was happening. It was the Wild West. We're almost to 40% right now. So this is definitely a danger zone. This is not a good thing. Plus, unemployment right now is at 12.3%. That's also not good. So, you can't say I just always give you the good news. It's just this information prior to COVID was consistently improving and was good news. So I'm giving it to you. It was good news. But now, it's really taken a hit. So this is not good. Bit of national news or international. In Spain, they've just brought a case against Petro, who's running for president here. And there's a grand jury, there's an indictment, they're going through the process. It would only affect Spain. So if he's found guilty and he goes to Spain, he could be in prison, but otherwise it really won't have much effect on him. But because of some information that has come up, they're crimes against humanity, war crimes, genocide, kidnapping, and the guy disappeared. It was a Spanish journalist that was here when he was leading the M19 group, which was loosely affiliated with the FARC. You say, I call him a murderer. It's because he went into Bogota and they gunned down over 100 people at the plaza, women, children. It was just kind of indiscriminate murdering. And I think if you're gunning down, your fellow countrymen in those kind of numbers, it's okay to call him a murderer. Well, Spain is bringing a case against this. There's no, what do you call it? It doesn't expire. These crimes don't expire. And because of something that has come up, there's a new case. So there's that. And the election itself, it's too soon to really say too much, but there was one bit of news that came out. It was either Monday or Tuesday after the election, the next day or the day after. I think it was Tuesday. A university did a national poll of, now that it's settled down to 2 people, these other candidates, where are these votes going to go? And I talked about that last week during the election when I was talking to you guys, and I predicted it would come out to Hernandez 52.7, maybe it was 52 point something. And I said that Petro would get 45%. Well, this national poll, it came out and it's put it at 41 point something for Hernandez and 45% for Petro. So I felt pretty good about seeing that. It's like I'm not crazy because depending on what you read, like for example, if you read the newspapers, including there's an American or an English speaking newspaper or reading newspaper in Bogota, those are very socialistic, and all you see are basically love letters to Petro or anybody on the left side. It's really their opinion newspapers, and Medellin kind of that way, not so bad. It's kind of a mixed bag. One of the things I like about Condillo is it's a I can't say non-political, but it's a non-opinionated. The news is the news, and it doesn't matter what party or on the spectrum. They just say this is what it is, and then they don't comment what they think about that. And so I really appreciate that. It's been very good information for me. There's another newspaper here in Armenia called La Cronica, and that's pretty good. It's not as good as Condillo as far as being just the news, but it's pretty good. It's not bad. So anyway, if you're reading about these things, you got to be careful. After the election, they were kind of singing Petro's praises, and it's almost like a done deal. There was one article that was talking about, okay, let's review these two candidates, and there was a couple paragraphs about Hernandez, and then there was this huge long like I say, love letter for Petro that was on there talking about all these wonderful things he was going to do. But actually, if you were reading that, and I took the time to read through it, and it was kind of scary because Hernandez just has some very basic things, primarily about corruption, a few things reform, the tax system, and it's primarily things to address this, what happened after COVID. And it's pretty targeted, and they're really common sense. But you go to Petro, and he's got all these proposed rules for every aspect of people's lives. I mean, how to have a pet, and how you have to treat the pet, and what happens if you abuse a pet. And it just, every aspect about your car and your house, and I mean, it would be like living in the worst home association property, I think, because there would be so many rules. And that was pretty shocking. But they were singing these praises like these were all these good things. Anyway, so that's where it stands right now. We've still got a couple weeks to go. So, who knows where it's going to shake out. But I've talked, yesterday I was talking to a friend, but I've talked to a few people. And here, which tends to be kind of conservative, they were saying they think it's going to end up pretty much the way I'm telling you. So we'll see. Let's see, what do we got here before I get to my last topic? Oh, no comments. Come on, get your typing going. Good morning from Barranquilla. Wolfgang Kruger. I'm still working on Karl Lehmann, the Armenian German. I have the script written. Oh, God, it's everything I hate about videos. But the only way I can get this video to you is to do it that way. If you don't know what I'm talking about, that's fine. But it's a video I've been working on for 3 weeks now, I think. It probably should have taken me 3 days, but it's a nightmare for me. Okay, my last thing is avocados. Now, I didn't know this. Some of you probably know. Maybe most of you know this. I didn't know. When you eat an avocado, you get this big old seed. And of course, there's different avocados. We all know the Hass avocado primarily comes out of California. And then you have the one here, I believe it's Hall avocado, the typical, well, we have Hass also. Then you've got one called Donnie, you've got Monroe, different names. I didn't know that all of these types of avocado, first of all, they're all patented. So that was pretty, that's what caught my eye. Well, I don't know what happened there. I don't think I missed anything. I stopped talking as soon as I saw there was a flashing red light. So I don't know what that is. Everything here, my internet and everything's fine, but it looks like we lost the signal for a little while. Okay, back on avocado. I won't dwell on it. YouTube does crazy things. For all I know, they're shutting me down. You never know. Yeah, okay. Well, it didn't miss much talking about avocados. And I said that if you plant the seed and you wait 12 years, then you've got a 1 in 10,000 chance of that avocado being edible. 10,000 to 1, they're going to be inedible. They'll be nasty. Even animals won't eat them. So I'm thinking, well, how is that? I mean, you go by all these houses that, have their own avocados, and, well, there's a male and a female avocado plant, and they have to pollinate. And the thing is, when they pollinate, and then there's that seed, the baby, it has DNA that's a mixture of those two parents. So that seed does not represent the tree that it came from. And the odds of getting something good out of it, like I say, 10,000 to 1. So what they have to do is every avocado tree, when you see these orchards of avocados, they're all grafted trees, kind of like apples. Now, I knew about apples, but I had no idea this was the way avocado operated. And I had no idea that avocados were patented. But they are here in Colombia, when I was in Ecuador, the US, all these types, which I can only find 4 types, so maybe that's it. There must be others, but there's 4 types. And if you could have a time machine and plant a whole bunch of seeds from one tree, let's say you could plant 100,000, you might have one come up as a Haas type of avocado. You might have one come up as a Hall type. So even if you get the 1 in 10,000, you can't be sure of which type it will be. Plus, they're patented. So I can't imagine how that has effect. I mean, if you're an avocado grower, what does that mean? Do you have to pay for a license? I don't know. It's just one of those things that I always thought it just kind of grew, and you pick them off a tree. I've been to places where you're walking around the neighborhoods and you see these big avocado trees that kind of overladen with avocados. I had no idea that those had to be grafted, or they're grafted and they go by the small tree and plant that. That's probably what happens for most of these. But yeah, it's how it is. All right. You probably found that all thoroughly boring. But now we're going to get to your part. It's asking your questions. Remember, 4 question marks first, then ask the question. Okay, what do you got? Hybrid Haas from La Habra, California. Yeah, I don't know. I have this affliction. I think it stems from the days where I used to be at one time OCD. And when I was laid up in bed for those few years, I actively worked to defeat it. I didn't have much else to do. So when I would crawl to the bathroom and then crawl back, because I was unable to walk, and then that's why I was bedridden, I would throw something askew on my way that would be within eye reach. And then I'd be laying there and it would drive me crazy. But it was such an ordeal. And even though there was nobody around, it's kind of humiliating to be crawling on your hands and knees to go to the bathroom, for example, sit on the floor where you're taking a shower. I mean, it was all pathetic. And so it would take a lot to force me to go and straighten the pen that was on the desk, for example. But I would do that. I would torture myself trying to get myself to, at some point, be able to ignore it and not be compelled to do something about it. I used to be one of those people that sit down to eat, and all the silverware would have to be in a certain place, and the glass would have to be in a certain spot, and the dish would have to be rotated a certain way, and I couldn't even start eating until I put everything in order. It was a good trait for the profession I was in, but personally, it was just terrible. And so I worked at it, and I kind of overcame that eventually. Well, we got a question. I'll get back to the thought maybe later. I don't know if it's important. Do you think the prices of consumer goods would be more affordable under Rodolfo if his tax stance is applied to imports as well? Well, I don't think he's going to do much with imports, but the key thing is we don't really need much done with imports because the tax on import items is minimal. Some things have no tax at all. Technology-based things, you may have a tax. I think the most expensive I noticed is like if you were going to buy a desktop computer that was $800, you might have to pay $100 tax on it or something. But a lot of things, it's gone because of the trade agreement that was signed a few years back. We've got a kind of an equal trading system. And what the U.S. taxes, Colombia taxes, what the U.S. doesn't, Colombia doesn't. And it's been pretty good. I mean, since I've been living here, I saw them drop and drop because things go in phases. And it's the point now where, I can get whatever, if you're in the U.S., whatever you can get for about the same price. I might have to shop around for it, but there's few things. I was thinking about biting the bullet and putting aside for a drone. I think here it might make sense. In Ecuador, it really didn't, but you have to be there to understand why. And I can't really find, like I would get a DJI Mavic Pro, something like that. But I can't really find a way to get it without paying, kind of a significant tax on it. And the ones that you can buy here have that tax included. Most things is not like that, but the drones themselves, for that particular brand, it's like that. Now you can get some other off brands, or Huawei makes a drone, things like that. But I don't want those. If I do it, it would be a DJI Mavic Pro so that I could fold up. I know the software. I know how reliable it is. So there are a few things, but for the most part, the only change I suspect would be what he's saying is that he will try. Of course, he's not he wouldn't be a king, so he has to get the legislation to approve it. But he's going to work to lower the EVA. Well, that's pretty cool. I don't know. I think prices are good. It's always included in the price, and prices are always good. So while it would be good for people here, it wouldn't really have much effect on us. But the biggest thing would be for if you were poor living here to have no tax on basic food items, for example. So I think that would be real positive. I will say that I've been doing another thing. I've been doing some reading on is the food shortages the U.S. is facing now and come this fall. I don't see it getting any better. I see it getting worse. And I'm really happy right now that I'm living in Colombia, where Colombia is pretty self-sufficient. And while it'll affect, some imported items, I mean, if you can't get it in the US, maybe we can't get it here. Although we could get baby formula and you couldn't, but figure that one out. But I think it'll actually be advantage living here because who knows how bad it's going to get there. Electronics seem to be much higher than other countries I've been to. Well, you probably haven't been to Ecuador. The tax, things become, unless you're rich, you're not even affordable in Ecuador. Electronics, it used to be 400%. I believe it may have dropped, but the tax on electronics in Ecuador used to be 400% of the price. We don't have anything like that here. What we have here is it might get up to maybe around 20%, something like that. It's certainly doable, and you don't have to be rich to do it. It's just, oh man, like that drone. It just it's hard for me to justify it if I don't absolutely have it to live. I do think it would have a positive effect for you guys, and so I'm not giving up on it. Maybe I'll find a used one somewhere, but just to let you know, it does have some effect on a few things. I feel that may be a factor in keeping Colombia competitive outside of the big cities like Medellin, Bogota in the future. I think they're already there. I really do. It's few and far between where I find a situation like the drone. It's not for everything. It's not for all technology. It's certain items. Like there's a list, and there's not that many. I know desktop computers is one. Drones is another one. But there's other things like this soundboard. I got this from the United States. There wasn't any tax on it. Certainly electronic component. And it was zero tax. As a matter of fact, it was zero shipping, zero tax. I didn't pay anything different than if you bought it in the United States. And that's the way most things are. So it's not like you sit and struggle with these things all the time. And TVs, I can get new TVs here for the same or less than the United States, because Colombia also has trade agreements with different countries like Korea, South Korea, and sometimes their trade agreements are better than what you have in the United States. So we get an advantage of that. And if you're a fan of Amazon, which I'm not really, and I rarely use them because I've got an alternative here, but they have warehousing, and this is relatively new for Colombia, but Amazon has a presence in Colombia, and it's made it easier and cheaper to buy through Amazon. But like I say, you have a list of some things that are taxed, but even at that tax, it's not like a lot of other countries. I think it's somewhat reasonable. I believe it's 20% for Colombia. I think it is, but again, it's only on certain items on that list, and it's not a long list. I have looked at it. I don't remember how many things are on the list, but it's pretty specific. So it's not like, I got an electronics, so be a tax on it. No, it's not like that at all. They also tend to be things that if you buy them, then you're probably not buying something in whatever category that is for another 4 or 5 years. So it's not like if I get this drone, I wouldn't expect to be buying another one next year, So, you have that. I think batteries might be on that list. But I think that has more to do with, the chemicals and shipping and things like that. All right. Wait, any other questions? How are we doing for time? We're doing good. It's still horse in the throat. but I hate doctors so much and afraid of what they might end up telling me. I'd go get that checked out, but let's try to avoid it. Oh, I found the insurance, if you're over 70, I'll put up here the website right there. I am Global. It's IMG. The company is called IMG, not ING, but IMG. And I believe that's the website, unless I typoed it. So if you're 70 and over and you need the couple months here, for visa purposes, then you have that as an option. So that's cool. It costs more than like this. Heymondo is a very good price insurance up to 70. They don't issue for over 70. But so if you're under 70, you want to go with this because it'll actually save you money. They're very reasonable. And the link is in the description below. And what else? Oh, there's my email. If you have anything you need to email me for. And website, grandcolumbia.live, where everything is located, including my live videos. If ever I'm not on YouTube, you'll find me there. Or wherever I end up, which looks like odyssey.com. So anyway, I was talking about my OCD issues. What happens is things like this avocado, I still have remnants. So if I see something that piques my interest, I can't just read that thing. I have to go find more information and then more information. And then I need to find, well, was that information valid? Well, how can I see another point of view or what? And I dig and I dig and I dig and I dig. And they say going down the rabbit hole. And I have that problem. On one hand, it's good for the videos because when I tell you about something, it's pretty well researched. I rarely take it off the top of my head, and if I do, I tell you. But when I say something, it's pretty well researched. Like for this election, I went down a whole bunch of rabbit holes on this to try to figure out what was going on because people kept saying, well, Petro is going to win. Well, the Colombia that I'm familiar with for all these years, I just can't picture that. I just can't picture it. And he did get up to 40% of the vote last time around. And this time, it looks like he's gaining ground. It looks like he's around 45%. Let's hope nothing drastic changes to alter in the next couple of weeks. But it is almost entirely university age people, young people that honestly, they just don't know better than what they're being taught. And they're being spoon-fed the religion of socialism. I've got a number of friends that are in university or recently have been to university, and we had lots of discussions over the last handful of years about this and what they don't get taught. For example, if you go to the university to, like, say, business administration, they don't teach you anything that would be useful if you wanted to start a business and run a business. Everything they teach you is to be a good little soldier to go work for a big company like Exito. That's what they focus on. But they really lack any kind of education about how to make it on your own, which is really, it's to my mind, it's like criminal because there's so many opportunities in Colombia, but many Colombians don't have enough information to recognize them and take advantage of them. And so you'll have people wringing their hands saying, oh, I can't get a job and this, that, and that. Make your own job, but they don't know how to do that. And so these opportunities just kind of blow by them. But every once in a while, like Nick, who does the birding thing and the tours, and he recognized it. And I had nice conversations with him, including on an interview I did with him. There was some of it in there. We talked for a number of hours on this topic, about the education system, not just in Colombia, but throughout the world. This is a problem now. What is the standard price of a meal in Colombia? There's no such thing. There's no such thing as a standard price of a meal, because I could go somewhere and pay 100,000 pesos for a meal, or I could go somewhere and pay 8,000 pesos for a meal, and all points in between. So there really is no such thing. And I'm not trying to be a smart ass. I just don't know how to answer that question, because there is no standard price. If you want to know, what would be the low range, or what would be the mid range or high range, or like if you want a reasonably priced steak dinner, things like that I can tell you, but there's certainly no standardization whatsoever. It's a free republic still, and has been since its founding. And so free enterprise and capitalism are alive and well here, and pricing is what the market will bear. Okay, we got any other questions? I know questions like that. I'm sure you have something in your mind. I just really don't know how I could possibly address it. Anything else? You don't want to hear me talk about it anymore. OCD, I'm sure. Anybody? I'm just curious of people watching right now. Have anybody had any kind of experience like that yourself, or is it just I'm totally weird? I mean, I've never really asked anybody, and I've never really met anybody who's ever really mentioned. People used to tell, once in a while they'd say, well, I'm OCD, but then I watch how they operate, and they're not OCD. They might be particular, and I know there's OCD people out there, but I think a lot of people, maybe there's shades of it, and I still carry some of it, but I've mostly defeated it. I mean the rate. Rate, price, it still doesn't, I still don't get what you're trying to say. Well, I guess what I could say, if you're talking about going to a restaurant, you're going to get prices maybe as low as 6,000 pesos, although not so much now. Prices have been going up. But typically, you're probably going to be between 8,000 and 12,000 pesos for a pretty good lunch. So they'll have juice and starch and vegetables and meat and a soup, and more than fill you up. If you go, that's a lunch special. If you order off the menu, let's say you go to a lunch special, but I don't really want to have that. Maybe I want to have, I don't know, roasted chicken or a piece of steak or something like that. Then you're probably going to be paying, again, it depends a lot on the restaurant you go to, but typically somewhere in the 20 to 30s, maybe 20, let's say 20 to 40,000 pesos to order something off a menu for lunch or dinner. And if you go to a place that's like really nice, like here is La Fogata, and if you go there and you get a USDA Angus ribeye, which is crazy good, very, very good quality on top of that. Those are, well, I have something to say about that, but if I were to order that, it'd be around 80,000 for that dinner. Now, they actually don't have them anymore. They don't have them anymore because it's getting more difficult to get things out of the United States. And so the Angus that they have is Argentine Angus beef, which is pretty close. Not quite as good, but pretty close. And you say, well, U.S. Angus beef, I'm in the U.S., it's not all that great, it's middle of the road. No, I mean, they were really, when they were getting them, they were really good cuts. You get, select and choice and prime. These were really good cuts of beef. This wasn't your Walmart off-the-shelf kind of thing. And those were 80, but now they're not even available. And it's like 60 or 70 for the Argentine. So you let's say you order a drink along with that, you're up around 100,000 pesos. That's probably on the higher end, but that's here in Armenia. Now, if you're in Bogota, you can drop 200 to 300,000 pesos on an expensive place for dinner. So that's a huge range. It depends on what you want. Alfredo, how you doing? Okay, anything else? Man, it's hot in here today. Or maybe it's me. Overdue for my haircut again. All right, last call. Last call. Got questions? Hit me up. ENB90. Are you in Colombia? Are you living in Colombia? Are you visiting? Are you been here for a short time? I'm kind of curious. Yes, we are on Q&A. Thanks. That's all I wanted to know. Okay. So you see, I wasn't trying to bust your chops. That's the reason. I mean, I can't give you a standard price because it doesn't exist. Has the price of fruit gone up? I can only speak to here. A little. It's not crazy. Everything's gone up a little, but it's pretty close to the same. Watermelons, it's almost the same price. Depends on where you buy them, of course, but it's the changes there. Even people that live here don't have a lot of money. It's not breaking the bank for them. I identify heavily with the shades of OCD. I'm not OCD, but there are things that I really need to have a certain way, etc. Yeah, I wouldn't wish it on anybody. It sounds like a good thing, and it did help me in my work life. But it was miserable as a person. It's like you don't have control over yourself. You're compelled to do certain things, and that really goes against my grain. Mike, how you doing? Visiting mainly Manizales, 2 weeks, coming from New Mexico, USA. You want anything from the States? No, but good choice, Manizales. I love to hear from you. Maybe while you're here, you can get on a coffee time and talk a little. Maybe we can even get you on, interview you on here on a coffee time. I'd love to know your feelings about Manizales, because I'm always promoting it. I also easily go down the rabbit hole, she said. Yeah, well, that's got an upside, is that when you form an opinion on something or you have certain information, you can be pretty confident in it because there's a good chance that you've researched it more than 99.9% of the people out there that are going to talk to you about it. And, when somebody comes up and tries to hit you with, some alternative way of looking at it, you can kind of tell that they don't really know what they're talking about because you got so deep into it. So that's a plus. Bring us some dollar bills. I'm good with the pesos. No, I was last December. I was planning to go back again this year to see more parts. Trying to go for a month at a time to slowly integrate into Colombian culture. Well, we'll always be the gringos, but depending on where you live, like here, it's being a gringo, there's no ill effect to it. I'm not treated any differently than anybody else here. Why aren't you doing videos around town or on your mini trips? That's a good question that I'm not prepared to answer, but I have been kind of landlocked for a little while. It's just kind of on my end, but you'll see that soon. Around town, I don't really plan on doing much around town, maybe ever again, unless it's something very specific, because I've done videos pretty much everywhere. And I don't see any point in going back and redoing a video that I've already done. But if something new happens or something like that, then I'll certainly cover it. But the mini trips, I really want to be able to start up again. I've got a big list that just keeps growing of places that I want to go and show you. Some are actually out of Quindío, particularly south of here. There's a couple towns that I want to show you in video, but I can't right now, so hopefully that'll change soon. Yeah, I kind of wish I hadn't done so much in Armenia now, because those I could do. It's just like I say, it's like, well, what haven't I covered? Well, I've pretty much covered everything. I'm Filipino, so I look a little closer to native. Only when I speak Spanish do people notice. Well, it doesn't really work in Colombia. I get what you're saying, but it doesn't really work in Colombia because Colombia, it really is a mixture. It really is a melting pot. Now, I've talked about this before, where there was this family, blonde hair, blue eye. The husband, he was like 6'4" or something, and they were loading into the Mocawa hotel, and I thought they were visitors. I'm thinking Germany or Sweden or something. I ended up talking to the guy at Mocawa that carries luggage in, because I talk to him once in a while. And he introduced me. They're from here. They're born in Bogota. They were here on vacation. It's people here assume I'm Colombian until we start talking. So there is no, like in Ecuador, 80% of the people you're going to run into have that kind of mestizo, indigenous look to them, kind of like what you think of in Peru. Here in Colombia, you have no idea. You're going to find redheads and freckles, and you're going to find everything because there's such a mixture here in Colombia. One of the things I like about it, in Ecuador, you stick out like a sore thumb, therefore you're treated like, it just, here, there's just an assumption. Well, at least in Quindío, in this part of Colombia, there's just an assumption, because they don't see a lot of foreigners. There's just an assumption that you're from here until you show otherwise. Yeah, I appreciated that aspect of Colombia when I came to visit, Medellin especially. I haven't been to Bogota. Well, save your gas money. It's just know where to go. Hire yourself a guide to keep you out of trouble. Actually, most places where you want to go. Yeah, I wouldn't care either way. It's just, it was uncomfortable. When I was in Ecuador, it was one of the things I really didn't like. I never felt comfortable with it, and it was one of the handful of factors of why I just couldn't live there anymore. Well, the main one was I couldn't literally live there because of the altitude. But I could have moved to Loja or something like that. But there were other factors. And one of them was the bias or the prejudice. In Ecuador, they put everybody in groups. It's like monetary, if you're poor, if you're wealthy. groups. If you're black, you're treated differently. If you're gringo, you're treated differently. Everybody is separated, and you're treated differently depending on where you fall into that pool. And I never like that. Even though if you're a gringo, you're never treated bad, but you're treated differently. And it's, and you come here and it just doesn't, it's a non-factor. Now there are areas of Colombia where that won't necessarily hold true, but here in Condillo, that's how it is. Is Ivermectin available at the local pharmacies? Yeah, a package of, what is it? Package of 10 costs $1 something. Yeah, it's definitely available. It's dirt cheap. When I got COVID the second time, I took those, and I don't know, it's anecdotal. I don't know if it worked or not, but I can tell you that I wasn't as sick as the first time, and it went away pretty fast. So I took the vitamin, what is it, vitamin E, and the ivermectin, and I don't know, it seemed to have a lessening effect. But then I was on the first time I got it was April after it hit, and that was the original one. And I was pretty sick for, well, one day really sick, and a couple days pretty sick, and then kind of beat up for a few weeks in total. And then a year later, in April, I got the Delta version, because that's the only thing that was around here by then. And I was nowhere near as sick. Now, I don't know if that was because of a different version or because I took those. I don't know. I don't care. It was, I've had flu cases easier than, it's like, well, what's all the fuss about? This stuff is nothing. Even the first time, it's like, okay, yeah, I had a pretty high fever on that one day, and I was pretty sick for the day before and the day after, but it was never anything all that serious. So I never really understood what the fuss was about. And now they seem to be backing up on all of that. So who knows? Although I just heard that the current administration in the U.S. is they're fighting in court to force people on flights to wear masks again. They're trying to make it. It went to one court and it was shot down, and now they're in another court, higher court, appealing it. So thankfully here is like there's no remnants of it. Always feel most homey. Yeah, I've said this before, I'll say it again. It's not that I'm a big fan of Colombia in general, although there's things that are pretty spectacular about Colombia. But there's a lot of places in Colombia I really dislike. I don't even like to drive through them. A lot of cities, I'm just not a fan. But in this region, where Armenia is, and Manizales, it's Caldas, Condillo, the department of Risaralda, although I'm not a Pareda fan, but the department is pretty awesome. Ibague is nice. Bucaramanga, I thought that place was pretty spectacular. Medellin, one of the coolest, modern, different kind of cities in the world. I mean, that's pretty awesome. But I don't like Bogota, although there's parts of Bogota that are amazing. But there is everywhere. But, I don't like Cali. I don't like most all of the south of Cali. Just not a Popayan. It's boring as hell. Everything's painted white. I don't get it. Pasto is nothing but Ecuador in Colombia. A lot of things that I didn't like about Ecuador, but it exists here also in Pasto. So when I talk about things, I'm pretty much talking about the areas that I've lived and that I really like and the reason I'm living here. Does that mean it would be the same Colombia for me if I had to go to Popayan? No, I'd probably try to find some other place, just maybe I wouldn't be in Colombia anymore if that was the only choice. So, it could be cool. It could be a nice place. I've never lived there, so maybe I'm being unfair. I've just been there a bunch of times and nothing ever kind of piqued my interest about it. Okay, I'm rambling on. I got no more questions, so I have to check 3 chats here. Sorry that we went down for about a minute. I don't know what that was about. I can tell you it was not on this end, that I'm sure, or it came back on its own. So we're going to end it here. Thank you all. It'll be a couple weeks for the election. We'll know something, but I'm pretty comfortable with the information that comes up. It looks like things will be pretty much status quo as we move on, with some improvements, so I'm happy for that. Gave you a bit of downer statistics, but that's kind of everywhere. It's kind of everywhere. My husband and I are moving to Colombia as soon as we can. Did you ever say that you can function in Colombia without a bank account? I not only say that, I suggest it. Unless you have a reason to need one, there's no good reason to have one. There's a number of downsides to it. I have a U.S. bank account, and that's what I live off of. Now, I do have my Rappi account, which is not a bank. It doesn't have bank recordings, but it functions as a bank. For example, I have a debit card, and they sent me a credit card. I can take money from my bank in the U.S. and put it into that account. And with that, I can go to the ATM. Of course, I can use my ATM card for that, but I can also do it that way. I can pay bills from that account. It has all the advantages of a bank, but it doesn't have the recording requirements. It's very different in that aspect. So that's, it's one way to get around it. Fidelity or Charles Schwab? For me, neither. I use Capital One. I researched a lot before I moved down here 7 years ago, and it's everything that I thought is true. They've been awesome. They've been flawless. I have 0 complaints with Capital One. The account doesn't cost me a dime. I lost a card last year, and they sent it free by FedEx down here. I don't have to report anymore that I'm out of the country. There's no ATM fees. So, I don't know what more you could ask for in an account. So, for me, that's it. And I know a lot of people have success with Charles Schwab. I didn't. I tried twice to have an account with them. I had endless problems, and as of today, they still owe me $50. Not happy with them. I would never do it. But a lot of people have them, and it's no problem. Just sometimes you hit a wall. I just don't understand why they won't give me my damn money back. I sent it to them as they wanted an initial deposit to open the account. And so I sent them the $50. And then they decided they weren't going to open the account, even though I'd had one before. I guess I didn't use it enough. And so they told me they're not going to open the account, but they didn't send me my $50 back. They don't even respond to my emails anymore. It's like, where's my damn money? Here's the thing on the ATM. Just keep this in mind. You won't have ATM fees with the Schwab or the Capital One. You won't have ATM fees. Or the Schwab, you get it reversed if there's a fee. However, there's other fees that you won't get reimbursed for. For example, if you go to the Bank Colombia, don't do it. Just go to Davivienda or Colpatria. But if you go to Bank Colombia, for example, and use that ATM, you're going to get nailed on the exchange rate really hard, and you won't get that back. But if you go to Davivienda, for example, or Colpatria, you get the exact exchange rate. You know, so that can be significant money. So you have to know the ATMs to use, no matter what card you have. I had somebody say, well, I use Bank of Colombia because I don't care about it. I'm going to get that money back. No, you won't. The ATM fee you'll get back, but there'll be a service charge and the exchange rate, and you won't get that back. And that's pretty significant. Okay. That's it. Going to end it here. See you guys next week. Ciao.
Oh.